Welcome all to this gathering. This is our new series of All Life is Yoga. And today we are very happy to have with us Vernoica Pelicaric, who is master of, I try to pronounce the right way, your first surname, sorry, you're laughing at me, who is the master of the nonviolent communication, and also studied deeply the psychosynthesis. And today she will be presenting to us a vision of wholeness, which is based on the teaching of Roberto Sajoli, again maybe wrong pronunciation. The egg diagram especially, representing our total psyche, and his star diagram. We will discuss together some points in common between this diagram or this teaching of Roberto Sajoli and Sri Aurobindo's integral yoga. There will be also a guided meditation to go beyond just mere intellectual understanding. So Vernoica, please.
So hello, everybody. I'm so glad you're here. I cannot see you because this is the way it's been set up, but I know you're there and I thank you for being there and I'm honored that you're there. So I always start my presentations with a little moment of centering. So that's what I'm going to do today too. So just please close your eyes, straighten your back, and just drop from the mind into the heart. And start visualizing in the heart a little point of light that as you rest in it begins to expand and expand and expand until it embraces your whole body, bringing a sense of focus, loving kindness, and peace. So, having for a moment rested the mind, we always think of resting the body, but not very often of resting the mind, but we can do that. So a little bit about Roberto Sajoli. Many of you out there know about this, but Roberto Sajoli was a doctor and a psychiatrist and a pioneer in the fields of humanistic and transpersonal psychology. He validated very much the importance of spirituality within the dimension of healing. Like, we do not only heal by going into our unconscious and making the unconscious conscious, but we heal also by an aspiration and a reaching into the supra dimensions of consciousness and bringing that down as part of the healing, which is very much Sri Aurobindo's vision and teaching. And this is, for me, like one of the basic connections. So Roberto Sajoli was an extraordinary man. He was Jewish, and so he lived through the Nazi era, and he was put in prison. And people who knew him said it was incredible how he never lost his inner peace and his sense of wholeness. And that always impressed me very much, how someone can, under the most difficult circumstances, retain their integrity. It's very admirable to me. So just to talk a little bit, we'll start with the egg diagram and then we'll talk a little bit about his vision of the will. And I'm hoping that Vladimir here will put some input from Sri Aurobindo about the will, because I think it's so important. And we are, as a species, forgetting how important this aspect of our being, the will, is. So would you, Vladimir, please put the egg diagram up, and I'll talk a little bit with the visual. Thank you so much. So here is a version. There are different versions of the egg diagram, of course, but here is one possible version, and I'll quickly go through it, because you can do some of your own research on it, and it's an easy one. So here you see, the egg diagram. There is the basic consciousness here, and the basic consciousness is what so often is called the unconscious, and this generally corresponds to tradition, to autonomic processes and intelligent bodily functions, drives and urges that we share with so many living beings. This part is charged with strong emotions and is largely unlanguaged. Some people really fear it, and such disconnection results in phobias, obsessions, compulsive urges, and delusions, and makes us act in a way we don't choose. The information may be experienced through sensations and symbolisms. And then as we go here from the basic unconscious, we go into the field of conscious awareness. And this is the level of the personality and experience that holds whatever we are aware of at any given time, a flow of thoughts, sensations, desires, and impulses. So that's the field of consciousness. And here in the center, you will see the personal center of identity, which is an integrated and essential sense of the ongoing sense of I am me, kind of, that is distinct from the changing aspects of ourselves, yet not separate from them, of course. It is not always included in our field of awareness, because we are not all the time aware of what we're aware. But as we integrate more and more, this personal center of identity becomes richer, more fluid, more elastic, and can encompass more of life and more of that sense of I am at different levels of what that can mean. So as you can see, there is a field of conscious awareness, which is fluid. And then there is the middle consciousness, which is our waking consciousness, where we easily retrieve memories, thoughts, and feelings, what we had for breakfast, what you did for your last birthday, etc., etc. In a sense, this is where most of our experiences from the world take place, and is assimilated and developed in a kind of gestation process constantly. But not all experiences in this middle consciousness will be brought into awareness. A lot of it might be lost. Like, for example, we always think, okay, I know what I am thinking. Oh, I have this thought, and then I have this other thought, and then I have this other thought. But as we now know, between the consciousness of this thought and that thought and that thought and that thought, there are infinite little thoughts and images that go by, like in a movie, like when you're infinite, that condition the existence. You see this in meditation. And so you're not, that aware of everything that's going on, and how that infinite series of thoughts really condition the experience and beliefs and all of that. And then there is the super consciousness, and that is that dimension that I was talking before, where, some call it the higher self, some call it connection to the divine, whatever name you want to give it. But that super consciousness is that enormous possibility of the human being to connect beyond the personal to the transpersonal. And so that's a super consciousness, and that is the richness and the promise of our life on earth. um, Vladimir will talk a little bit maybe more about that. And then here you see the self the self goes through all of this, it's the source of our essential being. And it goes, from bottom to top. And then there is the collective, like Jung called it the collective unconscious. Here is called the collective consciousness, is how we are in one. uh, it's a bit of a, but how we are really embedded in a network of mutuality. These are the words from Martin Luther King. We are embedded in a network of mutuality that conditions us and enriches us. And at the same time, this is where, compassion develops, because it can be hard at times, like now. I feel like we are aware of a collective unconscious that is having a hard time, and we cannot dissociate from it. No, even if we want to, or we want to deny, or we want to imagine it's not happening. It is happening, and we feel it. So this is a quick look at the egg diagram. Thank you. Any comment you would like to make, Vladimir, on this while we are there?
Well, it reminds us about the golden egg, as we know it from the Vedic tradition, all Indian tradition. The heaven and earth were one at the beginning, then they cracked. The upper part became golden half, the lower part became silver half, and the space in between, which is here determined as a middle consciousness, yes, became antariksha, the space of life, where all life takes place, where all our souls are embodied. So they are supported by forces from above and from the forces from below. They all enter through this crack, antariksha. And our souls are here held within this shell, within the shell of the heaven and earth. They are called, heaven is the upper part, earth is the lower. In safety because they give us sanity. We have a mental structure, mental consciousness, which is supporting us, gives us memory, who we are, what we are to do today, tomorrow, what we did yesterday, what we are planning to do day after tomorrow, and so on. So, and there is the physical being, which is a fortress, actually. It is a fortress which protects us from all kind of dangerous forces which want to come and to disturb our equilibrium or ourselves, to remove our purpose. And in that sense, of course, it's a very much Vedic paradigm, and also we see it as Sri Aurobindo takes it as a basis for his own integral yoga.
That's so beautiful, and it completes so well the very rough description that I gave. Thank you so much, Vladimir. I would like to talk a little bit about other aspects of Sajoli's psychosynthesis vision. So maybe we can take this down. Thank you so much. So basically, there are two things that I thought I would like to really in this dialogue with you, Vladimir, and then with the rest of some of the participants. I don't know how many we are, but I guess we are a few. So Roberto Sajoli put a lot of emphasis on the will. He wrote this famous book, The Act of Will, which is a very beautiful description and very, very kind of like helpful, I find, distinction of the different kinds of will. So there is the strong will, this, we all know the strong, oh yes, I will make an effort, I will get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and go for a walk in the park now that the weather is so nice. So, this is kind of like, I will make that, I will not stay in bed, I will get up and go. Then there is the skillful will. The skillful will is that part of us that so that that wants things to be in balance and in harmony, and to, to make sure that we are contributing to the creation and not to the destruction and the chaos. And the goodwill is that part that really desires the best for others, and that has an intention of goodness for others. There is the transpersonal. This, we could go for a long time describing each one of them, but I want to give the general, and I really want your questions on this. And then there is the transpersonal will, which is very connected, obviously, to, in the egg diagram, to the superconscious. And the transpersonal will is that part of us that longs for the divine, that has this very deep and profound wish for union with the divine. And the universal will is the will that somehow embraces us all in a desire for continuation, for health, for goodness, for, all that kind of thing. So the important part in all of this, as Sajoli's vision, is for our days, for the day, for the times that we're living in, a time when, it seems that money and objects and technology and all of these kind of things prime so much over those inherent capacities in the human being. And so, and that the will somehow has been relegated to this place of forgetfulness. I could say it, like children are really not, it's not part of children's education. It could be at home and stuff like that, but in schools it's not that much. And I mean, a lot probably could be said about what has happened to that importance of the will. And so it would be a good idea to invite it as a guest to live among us again. So Vladimir, would you like to talk about Shirobindo's thoughts about the will?
You're muted.
Yes,
Other.
yes,
Okay.
I can hear. Yes, it's very similar to what you described in a way. Most probably we are all archetypically connected, so we cannot really invent something which our mind doesn't have already. So our mind gives a structure to understand how will works, in the same structure in which the whole being works, consciousness works, because consciousness and will are actually one and the same components, or two sides of the coin, of the same coin of consciousness will, chit tapas or chit shakti. And unfortunately, in our case, in our embodied state of being, when heaven and earth cracked and split, and the space in between, the middle consciousness started to live, we separated our power of will from our consciousness. They are not one and the same. They are one and the same in the depth, or in the oneness, or in the height, or in the beyond. They are one and the same. But in this manifestation, they are not really identical, or they are not really in unison, as it were. So there is always a delay. There is an effort, and there is understanding, then there is an effort, and then there is a result. So these three are delayed. So first we make an intention, understanding comes, then we have to apply energy, purify energy, and then only we may get the result. In the supramental consciousness, this effort, or this awareness and power, are simultaneous. The moment you are aware of something, it brings immediately the result. There is no delay in the result. So the power is so effective and immediate. Yes. So now we have a problem with the will, because we must will in accordance with our awareness. And that is, we have to match these two, power and consciousness. And that is done by will, by intention, by certain kind of poise of consciousness, which calls to this activity of consciousness, and that is will. Somewhere Sri Aurobindo says that the will is the, in yogic sadhana, by the way, that the will is the prime minister of Purusha. Purusha is our awareness, consciousness, unborn self. That self which is always aware and viewing us. And its prime minister, the most powerful one, is will. And to do yoga and to do anything creative in life, we must have that will which decides things, which things must be, or to say no or yes to movements of Prakriti. And Prakriti should obey. That will we have to acquire. And it can be acquired only by two methods, he says, by rather by initiation, that you will be initiated by someone who has the will and knows how to give it to you, the teacher, as it were, or by grace, he says. You can open up and call to grace and may receive this power of will, of effective will.
You know, I have to tell you, this is one of the best explanations I've heard in a long time. I have to thank you from my heart, especially that piece that you just mentioned, where there is no space, you know, between the realization and the, you know, that you don't have to go through that whole process, that it acts immediately, that we've all felt it at some times in our life. We cannot manufacture it, but through grace, we've had those moments when we felt what it would be like to just immediately have realized what our heart wish is, or whatever. No, that's very, very powerful for me, what you just have said. So I'm just going to check if in the chat. So Diane Walsh is saying this diagram is really interesting. So I'm going to, but I did learn about Sajoli more than 20 years ago, when the nomenclature was collective unconscious, or lower unconscious, middle and higher unconscious. Just curious about the origin of the term in this diagram. Clearly, I have been away from this material for a while. So, well, you know, this is from this egg diagram is from a psychosynthesis practitioner in Australia, and we all tend to, you know, things they become our own expression of the thing. We're not repeating like monkeys, you know, like what we learn. So he must have adapted it from his own kind of source of learning, different learnings and stuff like that. But there are other, yes, as you say, the terms do shift. So John Doyle says, do we accept that our period in the cracked space is coming to an end, climate change, or do we search for a solution, or a will a solution into being? This latter seems arrogant. It is certainly future. This is a perfect question for you, Vladimir. I'm going to pass the ball. Yeah.
Well, it looks like we are here temporarily in this cracked space. It's not so. This cracked space is the pranic world, the world of life. All creatures for the billions of years developed their vitality here, the life force. The life force gives life to greenery, to animals, to all the kingdoms of living beings. It's not going to be over. It will be modified. It's within, between our mental and physical consciousness, as it were, the field of crack. But the problem with this crack, it's not only connecting our physical and mental consciousness into one. That means our luminous awareness, whatever it is, in the mental form, and our power, which is not illumined and has to be illumined, so that these two, which are cracked and separated, have to come back together through life force. But they also, there is a problem with that crack, because they introduce more and more material to work with from the beyond. There is the whole cosmos beyond, all kind of forces try to come in to visit us, to settle with us, to manipulate us, to influence us, to be friendly, to be enemies with us, and we are constantly fighting with them. We are constantly building up ourselves within this space. That beautiful center which was shown there as a psychic center in the diagram, you remember, in the very center, it is we who we are here. And we meet all kinds of forces and deal with them without being even aware that we do it. Yeah? We have some preferences, desires, fears, dogmas, religions, whatever comes to us in whatever form. But these are the forces which we are dealing with every day. Yeah? Thoughts, fears, and this is the material we are confronted with, and not really the world and its crisis outside. Outside is only a symbol of what is going on within. And within there is a huge war going on for quite some time, and all that is expressed in this world outside as we see it. So if we learn to see it more precisely, more to the point of experience, inner experience, we will make a connection. And then we may try to change the world. We cannot change it from outside. We must change it from within.
This is so true what you're saying. And of course, it's the beginning of the Dhammapada, no? That line that it says, everything is created by mind. You know, mind is the source of everything. I don't remember the exact words, but the mother has this book, you know, on the Dhammapada. And this is the essence. And this is what we are really struggling with, is how do we, you know, and Gandhi said, you know, be the change that you want to see in the world. It's all, the message is always the same, right? It comes from inside, and in our lives we see it, you know, like everything gets colored in a certain hue when we are depressed, and then when we get out of the depression, everything looks quite different, and it's so obvious, but you know, we're not taught this as children. We are, yeah, there's a big gap there. So I'm just going to check before. I just wanted to touch on subpersonalities, and then I really would like to lead us into this meditation. I'll explain the source. So Suzanne says, Aurobindo's explanation of the will is so profound. Indeed, Suzanne. Could you say more about how our struggle with, just a second, I lost Suzanne. Sorry.
Could you say more about how our struggle with no space somehow assists our individual evolution in this cracked work? Actually, now you are addressing this, but perhaps more of what the fighting for the center builds.
And then Olga, who I want to acknowledge as my teacher, it's with her that I became a psychosynthesis therapist, is saying, Sajoli himself used the diagram as Diane described, with the star, higher self, straddling on only top boundary of all lines are permeable between different sections. So that comes from Olga. So if you allow me, so as to be able to make the most of this time together, I would like to touch a little bit on another very important aspect of psychosynthesis, which is subpersonalities. And this, I'm just going to read from What We May Be from Piero Ferrucci. Piero Ferrucci was one of the main quote unquote disciples of Sajoli. He's still alive, also an Italian psychiatrist, I think. And he says, because we have subpersonalities, right? Aurobindo also talks about this very much in different little languages, but we'll hear from Vladimir soon. Subpersonalities are like the exiled gods, caricature, degraded specimens of the original luminous archetypes. But there is a difference. While there seems to be little hope for the exiled gods, in Heine's poetical vision at any rate, subpersonalities are clearly susceptible to transformation. And this is so hopeful. This is so great, because we are so often in the grip of subpersonalities, and it's problematic. Not a problem, it's problematic. Instead of degraded archetypes, they can be regarded as psychological contents, striving to emulate an archetype as a gross version of what is to appear later in a much more refined form. To make all this very clear, I'll give an example of how do you work with a subpersonality so it all becomes clearer to you. So we have these subpersonalities like the critic, the pleaser, all these, they're almost like people, like they're parts of ourselves that all of a sudden appear. And it seems that we are taken over by some kind of branching off of ourselves, right? One woman, for example, had a very powerful subpersonality, which she called the I am sorry personality. We know that this one. It was the part of her which always felt guilty about something, which was always afraid of bothering others, and which preferred to have her suffer herself rather than cause the slightest disturbance to another person. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah, sorry. So the imagery for this was a tiny, shy old man. She couldn't stand this part of herself and was very angry at it, regarding it as the source of all her problems. Like, if only I didn't have, this I am sorry, always having to ask permission to breathe or leave or whatever, no? But this made the little old man feel even guiltier, of course. So by not accepting a subpersonality, we cause its involution. So we don't accept it, so it thrives. It's like, like it gets fatter. And as soon
we
as
lose you a little bit off the screen, Veronica. We
yeah,
got you.
Sorry, I got excited.
One little corner head here.
Yeah. So do you have me back on?
We do. Thank you.
Yeah, here you have me back on. Thank you for that. By not accepting a subpersonality, we cause its involution. As soon as this woman was able to accept it, which is again, what they always tell us, you cannot repress or sublimate or whatever an emotion. You have to embrace it and work with it. The other day I was listening to a summit on emotions, and there was this Tibetan Lama, and he was so, he said, like you have to go out of your head and into the emotion and embrace it and be with it. And he said, it's like, you're in the shit, I'm in the shit with you. It was such a good, way of expressing it. Like, I'm there with you. I'm holding you. I'm, you're in the shit, I'm in the shit with you. The same with the subpersonality. And as soon as this woman was able to accept this subpersonality as being part of herself, its constructive side emerged, which is the same. Emotions shift, they change. And all of a sudden, something terribly painful and stuck can become liberated and beautiful and take us to the next stage. The image of the tiny old man became a young, strong one with sensitive eyes, symbolizing empathy and understanding. The woman had transcended her guilt feelings and recovered her sensitivity. We have to treat them with understanding in order for them to open up and give us the best of themselves. Can I pass it on to you, Vladimir? Yes.
I'm not sure totally. Of course, these subconscious personalities, there's much about them in psychoanalysis. We have the whole vision of these, personalities which are below troubling us, and they are less individualized. They are more collective kind of forms, which can actually stick to any other individual. They can visit you and find very comfortable to stay with you for a while, like with this lady, I am sorry lady. Or we have our own shortcomings, which are kind of very suitable for us. It's like a suitable way of identifying ourselves with with the material which is of lower kind, especially when we deal with gross material, gross relations, feelings, emotions. So we have to have some kind of coating. And so we get the coating of some kind, and then we learn about this from our childhood. And we have several personalities we may invoke to help us with. And we do it. Sometimes they come without us calling them, and then we are frustrated a bit. But truly speaking, this kind of below the subconscious realm of those beings there, they are not really personalized yet. We personalize them. It's like the whole, what do you call it, the storeroom or resource for all possible activities which were experienced by us and by others in the past, in the evolutionary past. It is all those reactions, all possible right and wrong reactions, not only wrong, but there are many right reactions, but they are the same, they are void of real consciousness. They are like patterns ready to be used. So I can use the pattern of a righteousness or person who is very just, who is telling the truth, and I will be far from being truthful because I use that pattern.
Exactly.
I am imitating the truth. I'm imitating the light. I'm imitating the pain also, or the frustration. And I'm sorry can be also imitation. And maybe she's just fed up with it because it doesn't do anything. It just blocks her way of being herself. And that's why she hates it, not because of anything else, because she cannot find herself with this. She loses that kind of presence, or that svabhava, as we call it, one's own presence. This level is called, in the Indian tradition, chitta level, level of consciousness which immediately offers us from the experiences we had, or we had as a collective, or evolution past, that fire burns. Yes, for example, I have to be afraid, I have to remove my hand from the fire. So this is the immediate reaction which is happening automatically. And there are too many of these automatic reactions which are fed and supported from below, from the subconscious. And it is even declared as you know, in the Yoga Sutras, that yoga is chitta vritti nirodha. So it is the stopping of the rotation of the automatic answer of chitta.
Perfect. Yeah.
So if I stop this automatic reaction or automatic support that I know everything. I know, you just tell me anything, I will know immediately. Where do I know it from? From that memory storage below. Yes? From there I know. I made connections. I call to their, how I know to ride the bicycle. It is there. It's built there. I call for it. How I could switch from one language to another. I call to that cloud, to that connection, and it will support me. So it's all that what we do practically, very practical thing in a way, and can be very disturbing. But to be truly aware of ourselves and to look at the world with the fresh eyes, we must control that automatic impulse from below, and kind of have a gap between that reaction, step back, as it were, and overview those reactions. They will be there, they will be rising, but I will not be reacting to them as if it is me who is thinking or me who is afraid. Yes, I will watch them rising and will not react to them, as it were.
Exactly. This is exactly, like the usual thing is, like with emotions, the thing is that you can't change emotion, but you can work on the reactivity, which is different. I mean, control is politically incorrect, but right now, but kind of you can work with, the emotion in order that the reactivity becomes an action. This is important to understand. I think in the realm of emotions, that's the work. Compassion, on the other hand, is an attitude. So you can learn it, so you can, you can do, but with emotions is where you work is in the reactivity realm, right? So thank you so much. I want to really respect people's time, and I want to go into this meditation and a little bit of background on this meditation. And thank you so much. I'm finding this very rich for me, everything you're saying. So this meditation, I did a retreat with Alan Wallace. Alan Wallace is a Buddhist teacher who has a center for the development of consciousness in Santa Barbara, in Creston, Colorado, and in Italy somewhere. And this meditation, I really loved it so much that I transcribed it. I modified it a little bit because it was long. And it's a well-wishing. It's a gift of creating an atmosphere inside of us of possibility, of richness, and of fulfillment of our longing, I would say. So I am going to start doing that. I'm going to start guiding the meditation with the sound. So in an act of loving kindness for yourself, wishing yourself well, settle your body in its natural state of body, speech, and mind. Take the time to soothe your conceptual mind in a very soothing way. You can count the breaths to calm the turbulence of your wandering mind and come like a stone resting at the bottom of a lake to stillness, that inner silence, and resting in awareness, in direct attention to yourself. As a person who yearns for happiness, who wishes to be free of suffering, you can look at yourself as from outside. In this flow of awareness, observe this human being, this person, who has your name and your features, and can see that this person is lovable, that there are people who love you, not just because they want something from you, not because they find you pleasant or attractive. They love you because you're lovable, because you're worthy of their love. Know this to be true. And the invitation here is now to arouse loving kindness towards yourself by first of all envisioning what would truly make you happy. What is your vision? And this requires a fourfold vision quest. It is about 4 questions. The first question is, what is your vision now? What will make you truly happy? What would light up your life and give you a sense of fulfillment and well-being? What comes to mind? Obviously, it's okay to want to fulfill your mundane needs, but what is your heart's desire? Envision it. See what comes to mind. And when some vision comes to mind, when something crystallizes, then with an out breath, arouse this aspiration. May I realize such happiness, such well-being. May I be truly happy. Breathe the spark of life into this vision. May I find genuine happiness and cultivate its causes. With every out-breath, wish yourself well in the here and now. Imagine moving into that realm of possibility in the here and now. Wish yourself well. Wish yourself truly happy. Now we raise the second question. In order to realize such well-being, true fulfillment, you cannot do this on your own. No woman or man is an island. So in the same state of loving kindness for yourself, set out to inquire, what would you love to receive from others to help you realize your inmost aspirations? What help would you like to receive from others who are near to you? Those who are near and far. What would you like to receive from the world to help you realize your heart's desire? Imagine it with as many senses as possible. And now with every breath, arise this aspiration. May I receive what I truly need from those that are near and far in the short and long term. May I receive all that I truly need from the world every moment, every single day. May these blessings fall upon me to enable me to realize the happiness that is my heart's desire. May I receive what I truly need every day. Imagine reality rising up to meet you. You're sending out an authentic aspiration. You're sending this request out to the world. And as you breathe, imagine that reality rises up to meet you. Imagine this is so, here and now. That reality is user-friendly to those who authentically seek the true cause of well-being. Reality will rise up to meet you. You just need to recognize it. And now we turn to the third question. In order to realize such well-being and to cultivate its causes, it's not enough to receive help from outside. There must be profound inner transformation from within. So that leads to the third question. How would you love to transform? From what qualities that hinder you would you love to be free? And with what virtues that nurture your well-being would you like to be more richly endowed? How would you love to evolve spiritually? What kind of person would you love to become? Imagine it. And with every out-breath, as a vision comes to mind, breathe life into this vision with the aspiration, may it be so. May I so mature, develop, evolve, casting all that hinders me, to receive all that is beneficial with every out-breath, arousing this loving aspiration. May I become the person I would love to become and breathe life into that vision. And breath by breath, rather than making it a hope for the future to look forward to and fear you will not realize it right now, here and now, imagine becoming the person you love to become, breath by breath. Imagine it being realized here and now. And then we turn to the fourth question and the realization that no man or woman is an island. None of this is independent. Our very existence is interdependent. Our very lives are entangled with all those around us, human and non-human. So to aspire to a well-being independently of everyone else makes no sense, because we don't exist independently from anyone else. So with this awareness, ask the fourth question. In order to make your own life as meaningful, as satisfying, as rewarding as possible, what would you love to offer to the world around you? To those who are near and far, for the short and the long term? What is the greatest gift you can imagine bringing to the world? Backed by your skills, your interests, your passions. In order to make your own life as meaningful as possible, what would you like to offer to the world around you? Envision it. And when the vision comes to mind, again with every out breath, arouse the aspiration to give loving kindness to yourself. May it be so. With every out breath, breathe out this loving kindness. May I offer the very best to alleviate the suffering of others, to bring others to joy, to be an agent of peace and harmony, to bless the world with our own unique background. May it be so. May my life be utterly meaningful. With every out breath, breathe out this loving aspiration. May it be so. Again, entering this realm of reality called possibility, imagine here and now that the possible becomes actual. Imagine yourself here and now offering the very best of you to the world. Imagine receiving and what is received benefiting in turn all around you, everyone around you. With every out breath, imagine blessing the world with your abilities of compassion and wisdom. And for the last minute of this meditation, release all aspirations, all images, all thoughts, and all activities of the mind, and rest in utmost simplicity, in the purity and luminosity of your own being. Voila.
Voila is French.
Veronica, would you like me to bring the attendees over and just see if anyone would like to share, and you can see who's attended today?
I would love that.
Okay, so I'm going to just be making each of you, I'm promoting you to panelist, and at that point you can feel free to open. I might have to do one more thing, so just give me a second as I go through, but then you should be able to share your video. And got a couple more here that's not coming up. There we go, 2 more. Promote and promote. And anybody left?
We have to make them co-host.
Yeah, they're all well, I was making them co-hosts. It doesn't look like they came over that way though. So I'll make them co-hosts now. You'll probably recognize many of the names. So anyone, please feel free to turn on your video as you're becoming co-host, and any comments or any experiences you wanted to share. Still making all of them. I've got 1 or 2 more here. Okay, co-host, co-host, co-host. Okay, you should all be co-hosts now.
So I hope that was helpful. I don't, I just don't see any photos.
Here they come, slowly, slowly.
Yeah.
They're still coming out of the meditation, Veronica. But please, if you have anything that you would like to say or share, again, just unmute yourself and we'll be able to hear you. And Judith, if you're trying to unmute yourself, which it looks like I might be able to do it here. So the unmute button is in the bottom left. You'll see a little microphone. And if there's a crossover, it means it's closed. And if you just click on it, it'll open up. And
Hi, yeah. I just wanted to say I took a course in psychosynthesis right here in Amherst, where I'm living now, about 25 years ago under Didi Furman. And I found it very, very much aligned with integral yoga. One of the things I found most helpful was the study of the subpersonalities, which you discussed. And just how envisioning them as semi-independent beings within one's own, within the self, that it's so useful to be able to identify them and, as someone was saying, just to be able to sit with them compassionately and openly. And basically, it's sitting in the psychic being and holding the the recognized subpersonality with the love of the psychic being, and by doing so, integrating it into the psychic being and increasing the integrality of the being as a whole. The other thing that really impressed me was the idea of presence as a therapeutic modality. That simply being able to be in a I'm not sure quite how to describe it, but simply being completely in presence with another being makes that connection more than all the therapeutic tricks that you can come up with.
Yes, absolutely. And, there was many years ago in India, somebody said to me, after all, there's only two things, presence and love.
Mhm.
And I think that's so true. Ultimately, this is what it is. And the interesting thing, as a sharing to what you're sharing, is like the loving presence, the subpersonalities in kind of like held in this loving presence, because we can be so much more kind to others than to ourselves. We can be merciless, to ourselves, and we can forget so easily that what we give to a child, a grandchild, or whatever, we don't give to ourselves. And so I think that that's a very important thing. I'm learning it slowly myself, and I still catch myself being incredibly judgmental of me and things like that. Yeah, I think that's very important. Thank you for that. Suzanne? Hi, Suzanne.
Hi, that was a really beautiful presentation. That loving kindness meditation was, I can understand why you wanted to copy it, because I've never experienced a meditation that was so, it just it touches the soul. And the explanation, I think also, just that reminder of the subpersonalities, and as Vladimir said, how we're really not in the light of consciousness when we're in them, but we sure as heck think we are. So I just really appreciated the whole presentation, and just bringing to mind the value of recognizing how many broken off parts of ourselves, despite the long journey of therapy, can still present themselves. So thank you both very much. It was beautiful. A very, very clear and moving presentation.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. I just, it just awakes for me such love for the mother and Sri Aurobindo, when I do this, and how they have been at the core of my life. And yeah, it's so wonderful now to have, with all this mess, but to have this opportunity to be here now together, with Vladimir, and that we can be so enriched by this. What a privilege it is, Yeah, we have to say thank you, amidst the chaos. Thank you, thank you. Yeah. So we said an hour, and I'd like to always respect people's time. I'm hoping to be able to kind of continue this. I don't know in what shape and form in another presentation soon. And I hope you'll be there. And thank you for valuing us and what is being offered. I'm profoundly grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Veronica, very much.
Thank you, Veronica.
Thank you very much, Veronica.
Thank you, Veronica. You're lovely.
Hi, Diane.
Do you like the other day somebody said, I just love your white streak. So maybe it's my white streak.
Yeah. Thank you all for joining us tonight. And again, thank you so much, Veronica. And anybody that would like to hear that meditation again, we are recording it. And so we'll be happy to send you out a link, and you can go through that meditation again whenever you'd like.
Mm.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Thank you all. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.